the thing is that actually the films have to have a kind of a life of their own.
Hello and welcome to what will be a series of short interviews with the directors and the judges of the Making Waves short film competition, which is part of Portsmouth Making Waves Film Festival. And there are prizes for Best International Film, which is a non-UK based films obviously, Best National Film, which are UK based films, Best Local Film, which is films from in and around the Solent area, Young Filmmaker Award, which is for directors and producers aged 21 years and under, and Best Performance, which is open to all actors regardless of their gender. Now the closing date is the 31st of January, so you've got a little bit of time to work up your ideas and get something filmed and edited in time. And one of the people who will be judging all your hard work is Neil Hunt, who is a filmmaker himself, and he also teaches budding filmmakers at the University of Portsmouth. So Neil Hunt, hello sir, how are you?
I'm great, thanks. Very excited to be part of Making Waves this year.
Excellent. You were a judge last year. How did last year go, and what did you learn, and what can people expect from this year, do you think?
It was a really good experience being a judge last year. I've never been asked to sort of be a judge at a film festival before, and it was really fantastic to see the range of kind of different voices, different ideas, different stories and themes. Really kind of surprised me. I expected it to be kind of diverse, but actually even then it still kind of surprised me with the kind of range and kind of imagination of the contributors. So yeah, it was really, really exciting. There are a lot of films to go through, but I really enjoyed kind of the process of doing that. So I'm really hoping, fingers crossed, that we've got even more of that coming this way this year.
So as a judge in a film in a film festival, what were you looking for in a film? I mean, I suspect people have got, if they've not done it before, I suspect there's preconceptions of having to have like big budgets and be extraordinarily professional. Tell me what you're actually looking for in this particular film festival.
I think you're right that I don't think, sometimes budget is not actually the key thing. That the kind of the polish is lovely, but actually what I'm kind of looking for particularly is kind of an original idea, well executed. So that might be an original story, kind of original character, original kind of theme, something we haven't sort of seen before, or even kind of an old story but kind of recreated in an interesting way with a twist, and obviously all of the kind of the technical elements which kind of go into that to kind of give it that polish as well are important. But the first thing is there a good idea? Is there a good story here? What are the themes? So that's what I'm primarily looking for. But of course, if the sound's terrible, then straight away it's going to take us out of it. So we are obviously looking for that kind of technical polish as well.
I mean, this is something that obviously you have experience in because you're a filmmaker yourself, aren't you, as well? Tell me a little bit about your background and your qualifications to judge something like this.
Well, so I'm currently a senior teaching fellow and the course leader in BA film production at University of Portsmouth. But prior to that, or alongside that, I've been in filmmaking now for over sort of 15 years, producing short films in sort of fiction, documentary arts, video installations, lots of kind of Arts Council projects, related things, but specialising particularly in kind of post-production, so editing, visual effects, colour. So I'm an avid certified professional trainer as well, but coming from a low budget filmmaking background, which I do, I've also spent a lot of time kind of working across lots of different departments, so in camera, on sound, so I've had to teach myself to be kind of fairly multi-skilled along the way. I also have a kind of a background, a passion in kind of writing and performance as well, so which is where I first got into film. So I've done a bit of directing as well. So it's really been kind of running the gamut of all of of lots of different roles across the filmmaking process, which is really great when it kind of comes to something like this, because I'm looking at lots of different areas that go into making up the film.
So in terms of filmmaking, obviously there are. I know one of the
one of the other judges we have is very involved in, has been very involved in political filmmaking. She's got a very political voice. And obviously documentary making, visual storytelling is incredibly important, especially now, depending on, well, regardless of your political persuasion, it's very important. Does filmmaking for this have to be, does it have to be dry? Does it have to be meaningful? Does it have to be heavy? Or could something just like wildly entertaining work?
I think what's interesting is that, because I would feel my particular preferences, I spent a lot of time working with kind of artists and visual artists and things. So I'm always drawn to things which are visually very striking, or I think that that's the things I'm going to be particularly drawn to. But some of the things that I really enjoyed from the last film festival, one of the kind of finalists was an amazing comedy, which is all set around kind of the graveside at a funeral, which, and it was a fantastic premise for the film, and beautifully kind of written, produced, directed. And so, I'm looking to be surprised, really. Sometimes the things that you think you're going to be drawn to, and your particular personal styles, are sometimes blown out of the water by something really unique and interesting, I think.
Do you think, I mean, I know when I first got into production, one of the most terrifying things in the world was to actually see your work out there, and you make something and you say, this is it, this is my version of it, and you put it out there. It's not like building a brick wall that's either right or wrong. When you put something together, how would you advise people to get over that initial fear of not exposing themselves, but literally putting themselves up for judging?
I totally agree. I totally get that, and I was someone that very much was not likely to put my head above the parapet, really, in that sense. So I completely understand that. I think the thing is that actually the films have to have a kind of a life of their own, and you have to kind of let them go. I can't remember which director it was that said, films aren't released, they escape. And I think there's definitely an element of that you have to kind of just let these things go. And they'll find their audience, and some people will really like what you do, and other people less so. But it will find, and particularly over time, keep making films, you'll find an audience, and you'll find the sort of people that are drawn to your particular style of filmmaking. So it is scary, and sometimes things don't work for whatever reason. You've got all of the kind of the right sort of ingredients in place, but for whatever reason, something might not work. Doesn't mean you're a bad filmmaker. Move on to the next one and create something else. And that's the only way you can learn, really, is just to kind of keep trying and keep putting things out there. And sometimes as well with, you just need that little bit of interest. You just need someone to kind of latch onto it to take a bite, and then other people kind of are drawn to it as well. So that's been my experience, really. There are always going to be people that don't like things that you do, but there are always going to be people that really do like what you do, and it's important to kind of put it out there. Otherwise, you'll never know. The greatest script, the greatest film could be sat in somebody's attic, and we'd never ever know. So you've got to put it out there to find out.
Excellent. I mean, do you think, particularly in this festival and festivals like it, do you think that it's all about collaboration? Have there been many successful efforts of somebody going completely solo, or are people better off surrounding themselves by a team? So where would you find one if you wanted to make, if you've written, many people I'm sure have written short films, if you wanted to collaborate, how would you suggest people go about it and get something actually made?
Well, that's right. I think in some ways, I think there's never been a better time to be a filmmaker in lots of ways, because one, you can produce things on your own in a sense. So you could start off by, there's lots of information available and tutorials on the internet, etc. There's low cost technology. You've got the power of video recording in your phone, and the editing apps that you can have on your phone or on tablet, etc., would allow you to create something, which would have been a lot more logistically difficult years back. Having said that, as you say, really filmmaking doesn't really tend to exist in isolation. I think isolation sometimes is great in kind of maybe coming up with an idea and an original voice, perhaps. But I think in order to actually get the film made, I think that's much more of a collaborative process. And I think that now, I think there are lots of kind of places to do that. And one of the places would be something like the film festival. So come to Making Waves, meeting other like-minded collaborators, other people interested in doing stuff. One of my long-term collaborators who I've made films with now for over the last 15 years, we met essentially through a film festival, and we kind of both did a sign up for being interested in kind of making films in the area. I think we met in the pub and kind of really sort of hit it off, and we've been kind of making films ever since. So I think there's so many ways in which things like film festivals and kind of online communities make that, I think, a bit more possible than it was sort of, sort of 20 years back, I would say.
There's a lot going on in Portsmouth at the moment. If you walk down Albert Road, there's a million new trendy shops open. There's a lot going on in the artistic and creative world. How important do you think things like Making Waves are for Portsmouth's economy, and just the things to do for people in Portsmouth, drawing people into the area?
I think it's hugely important. I think, I'm from Portsmouth. I've kind of moved away a couple of times, but I've always kind of come back, and I've been living here now for sort of most of my life. And I think I've really seen kind of transformation over time in Portsmouth, and kind of culturally, particularly. And I think, as you say, there's lots of kind of new kind of shops and businesses and etc. kind of in the area. And I think culturally, this is kind of a really big deal. It's really lovely to see such a big kind of cultural event here in my hometown, really. And I think it's really exciting for kind of people of the area to kind of get involved with. Maybe people that have never really thought about film before and thought about themselves as filmmakers either. I think this is a fantastic opportunity to come and see lots and lots of different stuff. Lots of different voices, lots of different kind of ideas from all over the world, and to kind of get involved. And maybe that might just, that might spark something. Maybe you'll kind of pick up that camera, gather a group of friends around and start making things. That would be a fantastic result, I think.
I think that's an important one, because this whilst obviously it's local, regional on one level, it's actually international, and there are things going on, whether it be films from around the world, and it's a very exciting thing to be involved in. I mean, the last question: are there any tops? Because obviously, I suspect you'll be looking for entrants from experienced people and inexperienced people and people across the board. I mean, could you give any generic advice to everyone on that, or not?
Well, I suppose really the first thing is making sure that you've really kind of developed idea and script. If it's a scripted piece, you really need to kind of make sure that is all in place, and you've really kind of developed that. And make sure that idea is sound, and kind of talk to people about it, tell other people about your idea as well, run it past them, sort of see how that plays. And then I think sort of on a technical basis, I think, sound, as I mentioned it already, is kind of a big thing. And obviously beautiful camera work, beautiful visuals, to really kind of draw you into the image. But actually, if the sound is poor, then it becomes very hard to engage. And I think that in a short film competition as well, I think you really have to think about your opening. I think it's really, really important to have a really strong opening to your film, either visually, either setting up a question, or just kind of drawing us in and intriguing us. So I think really that opening to your film is going to be absolutely essential in a kind of short film competition.
Okay, Neil, that's great. Fantastic. Thanks for this. You're obviously still heavily involved in your own projects. And if people want to find out more about your projects and what you're up to, where would they find you on social media?
Probably the easiest way is to follow me on LinkedIn, or you can follow my Twitter at Neil Hunt Film, and you can find out what I'm up to there.
Brilliant. Thanks very much, Neil, and see you at the festival.
Cheers, Alan. Thank you very much indeed. See you at the festival.